didn't put it up here, but one of my favorite quotes I recently read was, "So when are you gonna write a real book?" You hear that a lot, which I think is funny, you know? And she said, well, the thing about adult novels is that you're revisiting things. Like the time I fell in love again, the time I rediscovered spirituality, right? After my divorce, how I grew as a woman. That's the whole Eat, Pray, Love, right? Which is very different than, I think young adult novels are concerned with the first time things happen. The first time my body lit up with electricity, you know? The first time I realized the people in charge didn't really understand everything. The first time I had to make a stand. I think that's maybe the difference, is that young adult novels are concerned with the first time things happened. Adult novels are concerned with revisiting things again. How I fell in love again after my children were grown. Erica Lorraine Scheidt, who wrote this beautiful book called Uses for Boys, I suggest you pick it up, says that young adult novels are just novels with no significant adult point of view. That is the only difference, she says, between a young adult novel and an adult novel, is that the character is between 14 and 17 years old, the protagonist. And they're not between 14 and 17, they're not looking back like the Wonder Years with the voiceover, oh, if only I'd known then what I know now. That's a big difference in young adult literature. There's none of that if only I had known then sort of reminiscence vibe that you get. To Kill a Mockingbird is not a young adult novel because Scout Finch is looking back from later in her life at her childhood, and she's able to infuse her adult knowledge into situations where the kid had no clue what was going on. Even if she didn't have that, it wouldn't be a young adult novel, it'd be a middle grade novel because the character's too young. So for young adult, YA, 13 to post high school, just post high school, but not starting in the real world yet. It's a little window. Okay, now here's a definition that I come across a lot. A young adult novel is one that was written with a specific audience of teen readers in mind. I hate this definition. I hate it so much because my job as a writer is not to write to an audience. My job is to write a book. I spend zero time thinking about my audience when I'm writing my novels, even though my books are published and put in the Barnes & Noble Young Adult section. I don't care who reads my book. I can't predict who's going to pick it up off of that shelf. There's this issue of the gatekeeper. I've heard that phrase thrown around at different conferences. Some people say it's the agent's and editor's job to be the gatekeeper of letting like the best stuff through. Well, in young adult writing, there's a different gatekeeper that they talk about. It's the parent. Does the parent buy the book for the child? The parent buys the book for the picture book child, and the parent buys the book for the middle grade child. But young adult writers like to say, and I think this is kind of queasy and weird as a parent, there's no gatekeeper. Teens buy their own books. You're not selling to the parent. Your book is going to be bought by whoever buys it, not necessarily handed to a student and saying, read this. I agree with that. I don't write with an audience in mind. I write my book. There is this phenomenon called clean reads, where your parents can guarantee there's going to be no sex and no violence in the book. There'll be some petting, but nothing under the shirt. There's going to be rules. It's a clean read. I do not write clean reads. I have no interest in writing clean reads. I write my story. I think our job as writers of the teen experience is to elevate sort of that horrible, transformative, metamorphic mush that is adolescence into art. Whether that be science fiction, dystopian, teens as zombies, whatever it is, making art from that experience.